Good morning, it's James. I do hope and pray this message finds you and your loved ones peaceful, thriving, and well. It's so good to see you this morning. Thank you for showing up. So we're going to talk about something that every single one of us is experiencing these days. I'm going to call this experience that we're talking about today, how do we navigate dark days? And oh my goodness, a couple of years ago, we thought maybe this was going to be the darkest time. And we went through the pandemic, and I know there's certain things that are still happening in the pandemic, but once we started to see like, oh my goodness, maybe things are starting to get a little bit better and things are getting a little bit more lighter. And then what's happening in the world with the Ukraine and all kinds of other things. And oh my gosh, it just feels like dark days just keep coming and coming and coming. And interesting enough, our way that we tend to look at dark days can get reinforced, or we can bring our own light in. And that's not a denial of the dark times. Oh my goodness, we are painfully aware of what's going on in the world. Painfully aware. So I wanted to look at the research about how it is that we tend to cope with dark times and what we tend to do under the influence of darkness when it's all around us. The first thing we tend to do, according to science, is we become more perfectionistic. We tend to get really, really rigid about our life that we can control. And not in a good way. I mean, perfectionism is not good anyway, and getting really rigid is never good either. But when we're in the dark times, it becomes a coping mechanism of like, oh my gosh, if I have to control one thing because everything seems like it's out of control, I'm going to control this. I'm going to get super vigilant about this and super connected to that and super tight about this. And that perfectionism drives more and more anxiety, more and more sadness, more and more darkness, more and more depression, and more interesting, it creates this shame like I can't do anything and I'm not enough and I'm not powerful and I'm powerless. And the way that we can heal this is moving from that perfectionistic side and embracing our student nature. What can I learn from what's coming up for me? What can I learn from how I'm responding to all of this? What can I do to be a student of the things that I can control in a positive, connected way that makes me feel lighter with myself, so then I can look at the world with fresh eyes and see how I can be a beneficial presence on the planet. We move from perfectionism to being a student, a learner, an openness. We've never been in situations like this before, so we need to give ourselves permission to be a student of what it is that we can do to help us to feel better about ourselves so we can do better in the world. Number 2, during dark times, the idea of not enoughness, chronic not enoughness, like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do about this, and this not enoughness reinforces itself, and I feel powerless in all areas of my life. And then we kind of give up on the things, the rituals, the connection to the things that we know we have control over, the things that give us a sense of peace, the things that gives us a sense of control in our lives. The difference between not enoughness and not feeling like we have any power or say in our life is self-efficacy, which we've talked about a lot lately. Just the ability to be present for the one or two things that you absolutely connect to every single day, whether it be meditation, whether it be taking a walk, whether it be connecting with a loved one. When you're fully present for it, like you set an intention to do it and you follow through and you absolutely see yourself mindfully connected to that experience, it changes our chemistry. It buoys up serotonin, it lowers stress hormones, it optimizes our dopamine levels, so we feel more motivated to continually move through what's happening. Not in denial, but in a courageous conviction about showing up and doing the best that we can. Self-efficacy, the opposite of not enoughness. Number 3, do you ever find yourself during dark times? It's this thing like, I gotta just keep doing stuff. I'm gonna work more. I'm going to stay connected to media. I want to keep on knowing what's happening. And this human doing sort of part of us just overtakes our life. And this human doing is just continually trying to figure out how to busy ourselves. So we don't have to feel, we don't have to look, we don't have to know. Well, the human being is dying right now to be seen. The human being is the exact opposite of the human doing. He or she is the one who just takes time out just to examine what is it our heart is feeling. And not in a way that you're like going on an archaeological dig and just digging in, but more just like, what am I feeling? I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling hurt. I'm just going to be with this. I'm not going to judge myself. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to be soft. I'm going to be open. I'm just going to be with what is. Human doing, human being. And lastly, sadness. Oh my goodness, have you? I know I have. The kind of sadness I've seen and felt over these last few years is like nothing I've ever felt my whole life. And I find that the thing that my sadness wants more than anything is just self-compassion. Just to be compassionate towards myself for what it is that I'm feeling. Of course we're sad. Of course it feels unbearable at times. And that's why compassion is such an important part of our spiritual practice. Acknowledging us, loving on us, not distancing or discounting us for feeling what we're feeling. You know, I'm a huge proponent for authenticity more and more in my life. When I was a little boy, I used to paint a smile on my face when there was just so much shitty, crappy stuff happening in my life. But I just put a smile on. It was my coping mechanism. I was a peacemaker. I was just trying to do what I could to make sense and distancing myself from my authentic self. Well, you know what? I do my very best to be real with you every day. I do my very best to be real in the world every day. And by and large, I'm a very, very optimistic person. And I remain optimistic. I remain deeply committed to spiritual practice, which gives me a sense of optimism and hope. This is a time for compassion. It's a time for acceptance. It's a time to be a student of what makes you come alive. It's a time to allow your human being to be seen. Always, always as more than enough. Thank you for walking through these dark days together with me and helping me to see the light and be the light when we can and when we feel we want to, because it is what's coming through us, as us. I see you and I appreciate you. Much love. Every blessing. Bye for now.